Let me ask you something. Have you ever had that little nagging thought that there's a part of your partner, a part of their life that you know absolutely nothing about? A secret so big it could change everything you thought you knew? Well, we're about to dive into a story that takes that question to a truly terrifying place. It seems like such a simple question, right? But the answer? Well, the answer can be terrifying. We build our entire lives on trust, on this fundamental belief that the person sleeping right next to us is exactly who they say they are. But what if they're not? What if they're a complete stranger? So imagine this. You're about to propose, you're at your girlfriend's apartment, you're helping her clean up, and you accidentally knock over a box. And out falls this envelope with a prison return address. This isn't a movie script. This is a real post from a guy on Reddit whose entire world was about to get turned completely upside down. He found out his girlfriend was secretly writing these affectionate, almost love letter style notes to a notorious killer. And we're not talking about just any criminal. This was a man who had murdered his own pregnant wife and his two small children. Suddenly, the woman he thought he was going to marry was tied to this unimaginable evil. As shocking as that is, at least he found out before tying his life to hers. He got a chance to walk away. But for some people, the truth is so much worse. And it comes out far, far too late. So let's go back in time a little bit. I want to introduce you to Judith Ridgway. She was a woman living what she thought was a perfectly normal life in Seattle. But what she didn't know was that she was married to a monster who was hiding in plain sight. I mean, the level of deception here is just staggering. For 13 years, Judith saw Gary as the perfect husband. She described him as gentle, kind, a real old-school gentleman. But the reality? He was Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, one of the most prolific serial murderers in American history. She shared a home with him, a bed with him, a life with him, and she had absolutely no clue. You know, that kind of story feels like it's from another time, doesn't it? Before our lives were plastered all over the internet. But in this super connected world we live in now, the masks people can wear are even more convincing. They can build this perfect persona online that can fool hundreds of thousands of people at once. And that brings us to Kareem Salim. To his 660,000 followers on TikTok, he was this friendly, super helpful English teacher. He created this image of a smart, charming family man. But it was all a complete and total lie. The two sides of his life are just terrifying to think about. On one hand, you've got the TikTok teacher making these wholesome videos teaching phonics, often with his little 9-year-old son, Zayn. And on the other hand, you have the Butcher of Egypt, a sadist who was torturing and murdering women inside a soundproofed room in the very same apartment. This is a direct quote from one of his English lesson TikToks. Now, back then, it just seemed a little quirky, maybe a bit weird. But looking back now, hearing a serial killer casually suggest using the words deadbeat and wrecked as slang, it is absolutely bone-chilling. And his methods were just horrifyingly systematic. He'd lure women to his home, drug them, and then torture them for days, all while filming it. After he strangled them, he dumped their bodies along a desert road. That's actually how the police finally connected the dots and traced all the murders back to him. So when he was finally arrested, police took his young son, Zayn, into protective custody. Obviously, they needed to find the boy's next of kin. So they asked Kareem, "Where's the boy's mother?" And he just told them, "She's dead." But that was just another one of his lies. Because Zayn's mother is very much alive. Her name is Lubna, and she had been living in absolute terror, separated from her son for years, long before anyone even knew what Kareem was really doing. That's the opening line from a TikTok video Lubna posted that just blew up. For years, she was a victim of Kareem's abuse. And when she finally found the courage to escape, he kidnapped their son. So now, with Kareem in prison waiting for his execution, she's in this desperate fight to set the record straight and, more than anything, to get her little boy back. The timeline here is just heartbreaking. 3 years ago, after a final violent threat, Lubna fled for her life, but Kareem kept their son. She spent 3 agonizing years fighting through the courts to get him back. Then, about 7 months ago, Kareem was arrested. But instead of getting her son back, his mother, the boy's paternal grandmother, took Zayn and just vanished. And this story is not over. It is happening right Now, a serial killer might be behind bars, but his innocent son is still missing, and his mother is in a desperate race against the clock to find him. Zain is only 9 years old. He's been kept away from his mother for 3 years now, during some of the most important years of his life. 3 years without the person who loves him more than anything in the world. So here are the facts you need to know. Labna has full legal custody of her son. Zain is currently being hidden from her by his grandmother, who has zero legal right to him. They could be in Egypt, or they could even be in Michigan, in the US, which is where the family used to live. That's Labna's message to her son. It's a promise from a mother who has been through hell and back, and she absolutely refuses to give up. She said she doesn't even know what he looks like now, or what his voice sounds like, but she's never going to stop fighting for him. And so that's where we're left. It's crazy, right? We live in a world where the internet allows a killer to build this fake persona and fool over 500,000 people. But maybe, just maybe, that same global connection can offer a little bit of hope. Maybe, in a world this connected, a mother's desperate story can find its way to the one person out there who knows where to find her son.